So welcome to another vinyl collection video. This is the fourth in my collection. Others who have followed me will know that I brought a few hundred vinyl records to Thailand under the false idea that I was going to be able to play them in this extreme heat and humidity. Well, that hasn't transpired, but I've still got them, and they've been sitting in boxes now for the best part of 20 years. So I'm going to remind myself of what they are, and we're on the fourth. I'm doing six every time I put a video together. Let's get off to the first set now. I'm wiggling the... here we go. This is the first one today. This is False Accusations, a 1985 release by the Robert Cray Band. For those of you unfamiliar with Robert Cray, he's basically a blues guitarist with an extremely soulful voice, and he gathers together some top-ranked musicians behind him, and he writes mainly all the songs, although he does cover some traditional blues stuff. He's highly regarded. He's played with Clapton and Buddy Guy and others, and he is top-notch. I had a phase of his albums in the mid-80s, and I bought this one. You'll probably notice there's a sticker on it, and it actually says 50 pence, which is what I paid for it down in this second-hand record shop in Shepherd's Bush on Ladbroke Grove, and I used to go there all the time and exchange records and buy a huge quantity of records. Well, to this album, really, it's a very solid effort. Nothing particularly overwhelming about it. It's got Playing in the Dirt, which is one of his standouts, and I've Slipped Her Mind. And he throws in some horn work on a couple of other tracks. You've got to like blues guitar. He is very smooth, very slick, and very enjoyable. So that's my first offering today, False Accusations by the Robert Cray Band. Here's the second offering. There we are, switching positions. This is Derek and the Dominos in concert. This is a 2-album set. It was the second and final offering by Derek and the Dominos. Their first album, of course, was Layla and other assorted love songs. This was released in 1973, but it was a live concert at the Fillmore East in 1970 in the USA, of course. And it's 4 sides, and you've really got to be a Clapton fan to appreciate this, I think. It didn't even have Layla on it, which had been a huge hit at that stage. But he basically, on his live set, which was invariably without Duane Allman, who was on the studio album, it was basically a vehicle for some tumultuous blues guitar work. Of course, he was struggling personally at the time with his Pattie Boyd love fest, so to speak. And, of course, the dreaded heroin and alcohol was ravaging his body. But this double set with his backing band of Jim Gordon on drums, Carl Riddell on bass, and Bobby Whitlock on keyboards. And Bobby actually was involved in the writing of a number of tracks on this album, and 3, in fact. The rest are credited to Clapton, apart from one. And there is some awesome guitar work on this. I love this album. Not all of it, but the first side, Why Does Love Got to Be So Sad, and Got to Get Better in a Little While, I play regularly because I just can't get enough of Clapton's guitar work. The wah wah, the eccentricity, the speed, the dexterity, the feeling is just absolutely incredible. There's also Presence of the Lord on here, which actually is a relatively weak track. I'm not too impressed with Let It Rain. It takes up a whole side. But side 3 and 4 are really strong. Tell the Truth, I love. And the final side is probably the best. Roll It Over, Blues Power, which he wrote with Leon Russell. And Have You Ever Loved a Woman, which signs us off. And if you can't get emotionally worked up listening to that, you must be completely like a stone. So not everybody's cup of tea, but I think one of the great live albums if you want to appreciate blues rock guitar by the one and only Eric Clapton. So there it is, my 1973 offering of In Concert by Derek and the Dominos. Okay, let's move on now to the third offering. This is another one that I bought at the Record, Tape and Video Exchange in London, in Shepherd's Bush. Don't Stand Me Down by the Dexy'sMidnightRunners. I paid £1.50 for this, £1.50, all those years ago. This album followed the internationally acclaimed second album by them called Touré, with that huge hit Come On Eileen. But this album, Roland had pared down the lineup from 10 to 4, and you could see them there on the front cover. On the back cover, we've got Roland looking somewhat suave and Victorian-like, I thought. But anyway, back to the front cover. As I say, the four, Kevin Rowland on vocals, guitarist Billy Adams, the violinist was Helen O'Hara, and the sax player Nick Gatfield. And this album was extremely expensive to record and was a commercial flop. But now it's regarded as a lost classic, and I couldn't agree more. I absolutely love this album, from the first intro on the occasional flicker to the last note on the waltz. It just takes me on that journey. It flows with deep emotions as I listen to it. Roland's full of passionate emotion. The stories that he tells are magical, whether real, whether they're through spoken word or through singing. The musicianship is awesome. The amalgam of strings with horns, simply breathtaking at times. It's got a huge quantity of soul, swing, and the haunting melodies just carry you on that ride. And you go via Ireland, via heartbreak, friendship, patriotism, politics, and romance. It's all there. It's the best album of 1985. If you want a more in-depth listen to this review of this album, I've done one. It's on my channel. There'll be a link in the description. It's my third offering today, and an album that I treasure, Don't Stand Me Down, from 1985 by Dexy'sMidnightRunners. Not Rummers. Fourth offering now. I'm shuffling around here. This has got a little price tag on it, costing £2, and it's Brave New World by the Steve Miller Band. Now, this was released in 1969, and it's part of a double video release of mine. I did two videos on the early adventures and evolving of the Steve Miller Band from its start at the end of the 60s through to 1970. This, as I say, was a third album, and it was quite a contrast from their first two, which had a lot of psychedelic, spacey, guitar-like overtones. This was much more rocky, and it blasts out of the speakers. It's much harder, and the title track kicks us off, and it's got a really great scorching finale, My Dark Hour, where there was one Paul McCartney featured, on credited as Paul Ramon. Miller is at the top of his game here. Guitar playing is absolutely stellar, and it's all down to him, really. And there was very much a power trio type feel to it. His strokes, his vocals are extremely strong here, and he doesn't actually ditch the psychedelia. He just tones it down, more blues orientated, multi-track vocal harmonies, hard rock really, and a great album. So there we have it again, and it's called Brave New World. Nothing to do with Aldous Huxley's novel, by the way. And it's by the Steve Miller Band. The fifth offering here, and I hope this doesn't get banned, but it's this. If you haven't seen this before and you're a little bit conservative, you might want to look away. This is the album cover, and I'm going to show it all now. The album cover that came with the double LP released in 1968 by the Jimi Hendrix Experience called Electric Ladyland. And here's the inner sleeve, which is pretty spectacular in its own right. There's a picture of Jimmy and Noel, and of course Mitch Mitchell on drums. This was recorded at the Electric Ladyland Studios in New York City in 1968. It was a double album. The cover, as far as I'm aware, they decided to get these young ladies off the streets for a few hours and gave them obviously some fee for parading themselves on this cover. And there's two stories about how Jimmy viewed this. I'm inclined to believe the one that he felt that it was a good idea to help them financially because of the need to sell their wares. Anyway, it survived, but unfortunately the album quickly got banned because of the cover. And you can now pick up, you have been able to for a number of years, the CD, which has just got a picture of Jimmy. This album I bought, I think about in 1969. Can't remember exactly. Unfortunately, the records inside, I've only got one. I've lost one. And it's not the original track records. Those were overplayed and unplayable, and I actually bought you could also buy this later, a couple of years later. They enabled you to buy two albums, so you could buy part A and part B, as there were four sides. This album is definitely my number one album of all time. To go through the tracks, we could be here a long time. But the four sides, the soul of Have You Ever Been to Electric Ladyland is as good as you'll ever hear. Crosstown Traffic sounds like a man playing three guitars, not one, and he chips in with a little horn section. On the first side, there's an extended version of Voodoo Child live in the studio, 14 and a half minutes. And my understanding is that in the studio with Jimmy was Ed Cassidy on drums. Not sure if Mitchell was there. and Stevie Winwood was on organ and keyboards. It's one of the most awesome piece of guitar playing I think I've ever heard. It's a jam. It's a blues jam, but it's extraordinary. Second side, 5 shorter tracks, but all of them are fairly memorable. Come On, which is, it starts off with Little Miss Strange, which is Noel Redding on vocals. Long Hot Summer Night is absolutely tremendous. Come On is 100 Mile an Hour. And Gypsy Eyes with the fuzz style wah-wah guitar is as good as it gets. And then the huge hit, Burning of the Midnight Lamp. I'm going on a bit. I could go on forever. I love side 3, the 1983 psychedelic trip song with some exquisite guitar and tremendous production work. And then side 4, which is probably surpasses the 3 previous. We've got a sort of a Still Raining, Still Dreaming, a funky start. Then House Burning Down, which is ferocious to say the least. And then Dylan's All Along the Watchtower. It's so good that Dylan basically decided to adopt the arrangement for his live performances. You can't get a better really compliment than that. And then we've got Voodoo Child's Slight Return, which is extraordinary. That's a brief comment about this album by me. It's one of the few albums that I can remember track by track and have been able to for the best part of 40 years. It's truly extraordinary. It's Electric Ladyland by the Jimi Hendrix Experience, released in 1968. Okay, after that fairly lengthy description of Electric Ladyland, I'm now going to do my final effort for today, and it's another double album. This one is by Electric Light Orchestra, and it's Out of the Blue from 1977. I'd been getting more and more into the sort of string pop of ELO from the early 70s. Face the Music I'd bought, and then I bought a New World record. No surprises when I got this one, though. It was a double album and a bit more difficult to get your teeth into 4 sides, no matter how much you like a band. The pop sort of strings an album continued, really. It has got some outstanding tracks. The early start of the first side I love. Turn to Stone was a big hit. It's Over, I love the harmonies on that, and Sweet Talking Woman. And then it sort of, for me, wanders a bit on the second side. But the Concerto for a Rainy Day, which takes up side 3, I think is an outstanding piece of music written by Jeff Lynne. All of the tracks are awesome. The arrangements are awesome. Standing in the Rain, Big Wheels, Summer and Lightning, and of course the huge hit, Mr. Blue Sky. It's probably as far as I'm concerned, the highlight of this double album. And there's some pretty nice tracks on track 4, but as I say, I tend to go for side 1 and 3 when I listen to this. I'll be interested to know what others might feel who are probably more committed ELO fans. But anyway, that's my take then on number 4 on the Vinyl Find collectors videos. Hope you enjoyed it.